Yeah, we gotta talk about this one. And I'm not necessarily gonna lie, I'd be a bit mad if I didn't do so. Because there is a lot of times where there is games I play and there is parts of the games that I enjoy want to make videos about, but I don't do it because I know there is oftentimes people that don't care, and that holds me back from doing certain videos a lot, right? So when it comes down to this situation and after beating the game, there is definitely things I want to talk about, and I'm not gonna just sit here and let the opportunity pass by, especially when this game gets older and older and older, and people will be less interested to kind of check it out, see what people think about it, because I had the opportunity to play it, and I seen basically everything that I have needed to see in my playthrough and outside of the playthrough as well. So while I'm going to give you my full review of everything, and this is going to be a video where I basically just ramble on for a good minute and kind of just talk about things in random places. It could be something good here, something negative there, and then mix it up, kind of just do it in that sort of way, because there's a lot to honestly say. I got 2 pages of notes to kind of, go into the whole aspects of it. Notes I took from seeing what other people have said about the game, and some of my own personal notes of what I did like, what I didn't like, and stuff like that, right? So, a lot of people glazed the hell out this game, right? And for a decent reason. When I first saw how people, glazing up this game, talking about it, how things was, and there is something definitely there, right? I'm not necessarily gonna sit here and say, oh, this game was completely cheeks, right? The ultimate cheeks, right? Granted, I do got a lot of negative things to say, but this game was good for what it was. In a general sentence of my own ranking or rating of what I would give it, I would say it's a 7.5 to almost maybe an 8 out of 10. I'm not joking when I say, yes, you will probably have a good time when you play the game if you really don't sit here and think about it way too damn hard. Because in terms of like gameplay, which I won't really focus too much on because I'm mainly for story, but when it comes to gameplay, I do like the fact there is certain things that does happen. Like, oh, you can back up in terms of the, fighting, like go from the front lines, go to the rear lines and all that type of stuff. And that's cool if the enemies were actually using that mechanic and fighting it against you, and oftentimes that doesn't happen. You get more times where it doesn't happen than it does, and that kind of honestly sucks. And even if you try to go back for less damage, you still get clapped in some shape and form. So, it ultimately it is what it is when it comes down to it. But still, nonetheless, there is some things about it that's fine, and I don't necessarily mind. I do like the fact that you can kind of just, get multiple turns in one go, because why the hell not? Especially if you kind of attack the weakness, which honestly that's kind of been the thing for Persona for a while now, so that's really not nothing new, but I keep forgetting that that's a damn thing half the time, so that's for me. And I also like that other people can use other powers, because Persona usually locks characters into one damn thing. So the fact that they can actually use other archetypes and use other type of abilities and add other extra abilities to that other person's like whole new, archetype, and add extra skills to it, that's really cool. And I wish Persona did that, instead of just doing the same thing, how it kind of goes about certain things of that type of mechanic, right? Then also at the very same time, I really did enjoy like how the social links is kind of done. Basically, you're bonding with different characters, because it's not necessarily a system where you need to look up a guide to figure out, am I making the right choice here? Am I making the wrong choice here? No, you don't have to worry about that. Essentially, it will go up no matter what, and you're going to get the next thing as long as you just keep going through the game, which is fantastic. Persona desperately needs to have that as an option when Persona 6 rolls around, because I am so sick of looking at a guide and doing that sort of method in that sort of way. So there is definitely that too. Now, with gameplay mechanics, I would think is done, and aside for that, let's actually talk about the story. This will definitely go into spoiler territory, so if you haven't beaten the game, don't sit here and cry about it in the comments that you got spoiled. But when it comes down to it, I have a lot to say about it, and it will be also like a mix of, good things and a mix of bad things at the same time. And one of the things I want to start off with is characters. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I did not care for any character in this game. I'm gonna be really honest with you, and there's 2 reasons for it. One, I didn't necessarily expect to play this game, so for me personally, I didn't really gravitate towards anything about Metaphor. I went in pretty much as blind as you possibly can be, and I didn't really expect anything because it wasn't a game I was like, oh, I'm super hyped to play this, and I really wasn't caring to play it, honestly. Especially if you really, I guess, know me for like 5 seconds. I don't really care for medieval like settings like at all, and sometimes it can work, and there's been games where it has happened and I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine, it works here. But there's a lot of times where I'm just like, I don't care for any of this medieval shit. It's why I don't care for things like D&D, right? That's just me, and that's just kind of how it is, right? But then at the very same time, again, it depends on how it works. It just, if you write it good, it can work. But secondly, there is a multitude of problems with how these characters is done, and I talked about this before with JRPGs and the dialogues and things of the sort like that when it comes down to especially Atlas's characters and how they're done, because those very same problems I have said in that video are the exact same problems I have when it comes down to Metaphor, and it probably will be an ongoing cycle of Atlas games because they never really do anything to change it up and learn. First of all, let's go by the characters and just actually go through them real quick. Hulkenberg, way too damn righteous for my taste. I'll just keep it very much a stack. Like, I get it, she's a knight, she's, wanting to protect the highness and the prince and all that type of stuff and fails to do so. I get it, I understand. That being said, the girl is way too damn righteous for me. Way too righteous for me to even care about. And that's essentially all she does the entire game. I failed to say his highness, that's all my whole thing is. I'm a knight and so on, and that's just kind of how it is. Outside the fact that she eats like worm shit, because I think that's actually something that she eats. She eats weird ass food and has no standards of taste. But when it comes down to it though, that's essentially all she got, right? That there's nothing really else added to her. And majority of the time when it comes to these social links and, these bonding moments with the characters, they don't really hit on anything. When it comes down to it, like, it kind of sucks. Like, I'm not gonna necessarily lie, I didn't even get the chance to finish all of them because the game doesn't give you enough time to do so in the first go around. What makes you think I want to go start up a new game plus and then just try to boot up the game again to be like, yeah, we're gonna just go ham into this thing and just basically just go through the whole story again, just as to really go over the social links that I missed. No, I'll watch it on YouTube, I'll be fine, right? That's how it is. And so I only was able to through really 3 social links out of anybody. And that was Alonso, that was Maria, and Hulkenberg. That's it. I didn't do anybody else because I just didn't have the damn time to do so, right? And that's just kind of how it was. But obviously, Hulkenberg, a little too righteous for my taste, and that's just kind of how she is. Stroll, he was alright in the beginning, and then he started making weird ass choices like, oh, we should reveal ourselves as the motherers of a Luis. Why? There has to be like a smarter way to do this. Why are we doing this? Yes, Dracadias. We start them with it. Why? Why are we admitting this? And there's also other moments where I'm like, dude, is the game not Metaphor Refantazio, or is this Metaphor Restroltazio? Like, why is this game so much about what he wants to do and we follow on his choices, but I'm the so-called leader of the damn group? It doesn't feel like I'm the damn leader whatsoever, and it feels weird. And this is the exact same problem I have with effing Ruby. Literally, you have Ruby Rose, who's out there being the damn leader, but is terrible at it, number one. And then number two, everybody else make choices then, for her, instead of, she making the choices and kind of figuring things out to make things better. I hate this when it comes to team characters. This is why I hate, sort of stories where they have like organizations and people like bosses or whatever over them or whatever, and they do these type of things, but you're supposed to be like a captain, whatever. It sucks every single time because the leader don't ever be a leader. Haizumi, no, this man has a deep ass voice and look like that, like, like a damn bunny rabbit character or whatever. Like, I'm good on that. That's unnecessary. Then at the very same time, he's mad racist to like the therapist, which, holy shit, dude, like, are you trying to be Madara Uchiha? I haven't seen Madara in a while, But that man's was honestly having that type of timing though. He was on that type of timing. Like he was wanting to be the model of racism. Like that's just how it was, you know. So there's definitely that, and I would say I would give Heisman a little bit of a pass because Heisman at least you get to see his story in real time, being accused of a crime he did not commit, and so basically you gotta clear his name. And so there's a little bit of stuff with him there that I'll give him credit to. Even like trying to figure out where to bury his dead ashes of his child and whatever, who was brutally beaten in the streets and whatever. Yeah, I get it. Hazume's cool. I don't have a giant beef with Hazume, but I still don't really care for his character all that damn much, if I'm being honest. So there's very much that. Lady Juna, the songstress. I could not care. I like her personality. Don't really care for this wide forehead, fake ass Ayaka. I could not necessarily sit here and care. Would I eat her out? Absolutely. That being said, I don't really care for her because all she is basically what Persona usually do in Persona 5. I wear this fake facade, so you know what? I'm taking it off. No one's gonna tell me what to do, and that's even added up with the next character, which is Yufa, who basically was made to be a living sacrifice to die, and ultimately not for her to do so and wants to find another purpose in life. They have the same damn trope, just told in a different way, and that's ridiculous. And it's why I didn't care for Juna. It's why I didn't necessarily sit here and care for Yufa either. No matter how good the new mods of these chicks, and how much, again, yeah, clappability, really, basically almost every single female character is kind of clappable, and I'm not gonna necessarily lie, but still nonetheless, doesn't matter how fine they are, their story is still ass. That doesn't necessarily save them. That being said, I will give an absolute round of applause and shout out to Basilio, the realest one in the entire game. I'm not necessarily going to sit here and lie. I cared about Basilio. I liked this man. His relationship with Fidel, like, it was absolutely amazing. I didn't really care for Fidelio in the beginning, but then he proved himself, you know, when he died. But still, nonetheless, he was just absolutely top shit, king shit. Even his social link, I didn't get the chance to finish it because I ran out of time. But still, really good mans. Like, if you want a man in your corner, you call up Basilio. That's the person you call. He was really good start to finish. Gameplay was even good because he was a damn just strong man. He was out here just let him charge up his attack, beat some ass, you win. That's essentially the Basilio gameplay, and that's what I rock with the entirety of the game. When you get him in the party, he's just that damn good. He's a nice dude who can actually cook some food and wanted to open up a bakery with, you know, Fidelio and have a nice ass time if it wasn't for Luis bitch ass at times. And then, you know, Fidelio was just good. I have literally nothing negative to say outside the fact I wish he wasn't at the end of the game and you get him at that point. I wish you got him like a bit earlier so you get some time to, you know, chill with him. And that's like the whole ass thing. So when it comes down to like playable characters, Basilio is easily the best character in the entire party. I'm not necessarily gonna lie. Now we get into like obviously a bunch of other characters, and I'm not necessarily gonna go through every single effing character ever, but I'll go through the ones I feel like stood out to me that is worth a mention. Neris, I wish he had an archetype. I'm not gonna lie. I know he's like the travel guy and all that type of stuff, but if he had like an actual archetype and fought with us, that would be so much cooler. I'm not necessarily gonna lie, right? I get it, he has the gunner archetype, but he doesn't use it himself. I wish he had it. I feel like Norris would be like way more cooler. I like Norris, but he would have been a bit more cooler in my personal opinion if you fought as him. So there's very much that. Then you get to some of the side characters. Miss Fabian, ooh shit, about fine as hell. Honestly, that's like the whole damn trope. She about fine as hell, looking after Maria and you know, and all that type of nonsense or whatever. Like, shit, Maria, you need a little sister? I can help you with that. So, you know, it is what it is. Fabian, mad fine, got no problem with that whatsoever. Maria, I mean, it's just a Nanako type, so, you know, it is what it is. I didn't really care for this one, right? But she's there, I guess, so there's definitely that. But then you get someone kick ass like Alonzo, and Alonzo was excellent. I love Alonso. He's a con man, a liar, but he lies for good. He lies for the good things. And that is absolutely peak. And I think he's a peak ass character for a side character. I'm not necessarily gonna lie. When they faked out his death and I thought he actually died, I was pissed. I was mad. Because I was like, how the hell did this man Alonso get bodied? The one good damn NPC in this game, and he gets bodied. I'm pissed as shit. Only for this man to come back to be like, oh, did you miss me? I told you I'm a liar. My boy, what's good? It was nice to see. So Alonso easily has a story where I'm like, I hella gravitate towards it. Man lost his mother, got accused of being, an asshole that burnt down the village and shit. Like, my heart go out to that man, right? Just as much as it goes out to Basilio as well. And that's just kind of how it was. So definitely, he's like really the only other character that's worth a damn to talk about in terms of like the NPCs that you can rank up and all that type of stuff, because nobody else was really that good. Honestly, not even Hulkenberg's whole story. It was whack. I didn't care. So that was also like a whole nother thing. Stroll's same way, and pretty much everybody else. And really, the last character in terms of the good guys I would want to really bring up is Gallica. Now, I know a lot of people hate Gallica because she's basically Morgana, who basically tells you a lot of different things that you already know. You need to heal up. You need to go here. What do you think we should do here? I'm projecting my feelings onto you when it comes down to what we should actually do. I understand people annoyed with Gallica. I get it. And granted, you should accept that this is just a thing that happens in Atlas games because you're going to get characters like this, unfortunately. But at the very end of the day, I don't hate Yalika. One, because she about fine as hell, so like that gets a free pass. But two, she isn't a bitch. That's the best thing about her. Like, I know people say like, oh, she's annoying. She's always on my ass about certain things. True, but here's the thing. Atlas has a bad tendency of making characters be bitch, and that's just how it is. Yukari, a straight just wild dog bitch that absolutely need to be put down to the highest degree, right? You get people in Persona 5, the different female characters in Persona 5, sometimes they be mad stuck up and, have a stick up their ass when it comes down to just fun and everything about it. And that's like a whole nother thing in that sort of tangent, and that sucks. And many times you get in these Atlas games, characters just being a bitch for no reason. So you mean to tell me that they can produce a character that isn't going to straight up annoy you to death in terms of being sassy, sarcastic, and, snarky and shit, and actually give you a character that genuinely cares for you, wants you to actually be pretty damn good, and, actually grows and learns with you? Like, holy shit, why don't Atlas do this more? I genuinely like her more than any other female character, honestly, outside of like maybe Persona 4. So that's kind of like a dope ass thing to see, right? Can we get Atlas to do this more, right? So, even when she had moments where she was being a bitch, it wasn't even anything crazy, and it wasn't directed towards you, or those moments didn't happen that damn much. So easily, Gallica's like the best damn character when it comes to this type of trope. So I'm not actually going to sit here and lie. I like Gallica a lot. And I think that's everything of the hero side. Now, I'm going to skip Luis and any potential villains and stuff like that later, because I want to actually get into some of the actual plot stuff and the actual notes, because everything I just said right now was on the top of my head. So there's a few things, and we'll go into different orders about how, these type of topics are. And, there's a lot to kind of go into, so I won't waste any time. So first of all, this game has a heavy narrative and a heavy message of, how the game kind of perceives certain political views, certain ideologies, and things of the sort that honestly feels like a woke ass game, and I damn near kind of want to call a metaphor that, because of how much messaging is in this game and how ridiculous it kind of can get with how much it beats you in the head with it. So damn near I kind of want to call it that. But at least in this type of game, it's a slightly enjoyable experience than anything in the West. Still, that doesn't necessarily mean it's okay and grounds for it to do so in a way where it's, how it's done. So first things first, they oftentimes bring up the political views on society and how things should be, right? So like, obviously they have like different candidates in the game that wants to be the king, because that's the whole damn point. You have this trial to be the king, and everybody kind of wants to do that, and they have their own reasons, policies, and views of doing so. But they oftentimes try to bring up like an idea and mindset to be like, oh, everybody should be free to choose the things they want to do. And oftentimes you will refer to a book that the main character has, where it's basically a perfect utopia. No racism, no type of crimes and shit, no types of like injustice, essentially. Basically a perfect ass world in every sense of the way and word that we would all, I think, be okay with. If we had a perfect world where nothing went wrong and everything was fine, I don't really see a reason why anybody would argue against that, right? I think that's perfectly fine, but then the way they kind of go about it in the game is like, not necessarily realistic, because you get tons of characters that are just racist, as like tons of NPCs. You get tons of NPCs that legit have ideas of what they want to do, and then you have to talk them down. There's mainly one where, and obviously this world is different from ours, but there's mainly one candidate that was basically like, yo, I want to get rid of taxes because taxes don't really do shit for anybody. And obviously, in our world, there is reasons why taxes exist, as much as we don't like them, but they do exist, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. That being said, in this world, I don't think there's anything weird when it comes to getting rid of taxes and not doing it, so why not? But then that's the main character. You have to speak out against taxes and against the idea of that and being like, no, it helps us all. And bitch, in what way in this universe does that work out? Right? And not to mention, you already have a lot of people in the main city poor as shit, and basically everybody is cooked. To keep it very much a stat, I think you could do away with the taxes and help the damn people, right? And that's like a whole nother thing when it comes down to it. So there is moments at points where you get the main character being hypocritical, and plenty of people have pointed out a lot of hypocritical stuff when it comes down to it. But it's just like, yeah, you say you want this, but then you backtrack and do a whole nother thing. Then we go to the next one, which is like the whole point of anxieties and all that type of stuff, and that's basically the main enemy of the game and what people suffer from the most, right? And so in my notes I wrote, they face anxieties alone, as that's what you kind of supposed to do. That's the message of the game. Basically, kind of face your anxieties alone, overcome them, and you'll be a stronger, emotionally stronger person. But here's the thing, the MC did it with like his friends to face it. They were there for him. And basically the entire kingdom has anxieties, and the MC has to basically go out his way to save the kingdom from themselves, essentially. But at the very same time, it's like, wait, how you gonna tell people to like face your anxieties alone and overcome them to be a stronger person when you didn't do that in the game yourself? You really didn't do that whatsoever. You had your friends with you, and your friends had each other to face, that anxiety, to kind of get the archetype stuff. And so the whole kingdom basically, didn't really face anything at all either. And they just kind of just hoped you do it. So no one really got over anything. Like, if we're going to be absolutely real, no one really got over a single thing about what has happened. And it's like, what? Like, this doesn't solve a problem. How do you know that people won't turn into humans again? And that's just like a whole nother thing that comes down to it. And to keep it very much a sec, it kind of feels like the whole damn thing about anxieties and how much they bring it up, it feels low-key like a waste of time, especially when no one gets to, figure it out for themselves truthfully. Which, granted, that was Luis's whole ass goal, to kind of do it on their own. But the way Luis went about it too was also very messed up and wrong too, which I guess we'll get into that now. Which is essentially, this man wanted to take the royal scepter, make basically the whole world full of humans, and make people face their anxieties by force. And essentially, if they cannot, they'll just stay as a human and they'll roam this land being a ugly, disgusting monster. And if they can, then obviously you'll stay yourself and you'll be strong enough to survive, and it's equality for everybody. And that's his sense of equality. But You want to live in a hellscape though? Like, what if the baddest bitch came into your life and you're just like, face your anxieties. Oh well, guess I'll be here bitchless. Like, Luis, what the hell? That doesn't make any kind of sense. At this point, you might as well join the damn main character, Luis, because there's not really anything of a reason as to why you should go down this route. It really doesn't make any sense. And speaking of things that doesn't make sense, the dialogue options. Yep, we're gonna go into this because again, this is by far one of my biggest hates towards this game and just Atlas entirely. There is a many times you get handed dialogue options and things to say, and different characters basically wants you to say a certain thing, and if you don't agree with what they say, you're wrong and the game hates you for it. It punishes you for it. It basically verbally goes out of its way to be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. And every time I see this in a JRPG or in a game whatsoever, I'm immediately like, then what the hell was the point of giving me the whole ass option? At that point, it's not really a JRPG if I can't choose the path of what I want to do. That is very simply the point. And this has been a giant ass problem when it comes to Atlas and how they roll with their games. Especially Persona, and especially with how they kind of have to give you the right option. You have to give the character the right option in order to continue the social link. If you don't, you get stuck and then you're screwed until you basically get the chance to, move on up later. And that just kind of is dumb. I really hate it. What's the point of giving me the option? At the very maximum, if you're going to give someone an option, and even if it's not the right answer, they can at least humor you with it. They can at least entertain you with that option. Even if it's for a little minute, they could do so. But they don't. And I hate that so damn much. I wish there was like a game where you could have multiple routes with multiple different options that all still can lead to the same place. But at the very same time, at least feel like they mattered, right? And that's like the biggest, fattest thing about a lot of what Atlas does. Not even just in metaphor, but just all with their games. It's that every single time you get an option to choose some dialogue, the characters hate it, and you're not necessarily, giving any type of like reward for it. Even if the game gives you like a bad idea, and sure, there's something that's like, yeah, I wouldn't do that, but still, nonetheless, I would like to see what the other response is instead of, whoa, you can't do that, pick something else. Like, what's the point? If I wanted to do something, let me have the choice to see what would happen. And that's like the whole damn point. And in times where your choices does matter, you don't necessarily know if it does or not, because the game constantly tells you, bitch, the choice doesn't work here, choose something else. And when it would happen, you're like, oh shit, that was an actual choice. Why the hell was that a thing? Why the hell did they do that? Hell, I think there was even a moment in time where you get to go to like Luis's little party for like his whole like, I guess like entering the tournament to be king or whatever. And essentially you could flat out just say, yo, follow me and we're gonna make this land a better place, when you're supposed to be secretly working for Luis and trying to get on his good side to just kind of find a way to kill him at some point in time in the future. And the party looks at you crazy when you say that, but at the end of the day, no one bats an eye. Luis, standing right there beside you, doesn't do a damn thing. It's just like, that's fine, whatever, who cares, enjoy the party. And that's essentially how it was. Your party still recommends you, but that's it. What the hell is the point of giving me the option if you're not necessarily going to do a damn thing about it? Again, I hate games that does that oh so damn much and make it in a way where your options, your dialogue options, where it should be some of the most impactful options in the game, doesn't give you anything that you want outside of what the character wants. And that's easily the most annoying thing that Atlas does so damn much. Again, I have a whole video just talking about that stuff. If you want to watch it, go watch it. But still, it is so damn tiring hearing that every single time. Jumping back to the whole themes of the game now, essentially about its take on racism, its take on, things of sort of like inequality and stuff like that, and all of its very political views and how it views certain things and such like that. It tries to go out of its way to speak about these ideologies, and then at the very same time, it really just does literally nothing with it, honestly. And hell, one thing, first of all, it doesn't be subtle about what's going on either. Like humans, they're easily the threat of the game. They're the threat to society. What? Humans are monsters? And there you go. You figured out the whole point of the damn game. Humans are monsters. But then at the very same time, I'm like, well, if humans are monsters, then the people that made this game, what the hell does that say about you? Well, like, do you think you're like good, better than other people, whatever? And that's kind of like how it feels at times, where the game is like trying to give you all these messages, but then at the same time, it's like, duh, yes, human can do obviously bad things, but like, why was that a necessary thing to kind of put into the game as a whole ass message? Like, I'm not necessarily gonna sit here and lie. I do feel like that was just something that they really didn't have to beat your ass in the head with over and over again. And they just did it a lot, and it's just like, here we go again with this type of storytelling. And that's kind of where I'm like, this shit is getting to that woke territory that I don't really care for at all whatsoever. You can wrap it up in the most finest of anime skins. It doesn't necessarily matter. A game that wants to try to do a lot of messaging in this sort of way and being like agenda pushing in a sort of way, which, it's more like message pushing than agenda pushing, but still nonetheless, it's still very much a game that feels very much woke. And I wonder sometimes, did they make it so obvious because the audience possibly didn't care, or they couldn't necessarily like, figure it out for themselves, so they put it into your face? Like, you do realize subtlety is an option. I'm not saying every single part of a story needs to have subtlety and every single thing needs to be subtle, but you do have that where you just easily lead some breadcrumbs to be like, yeah, this is how things are, so follow this trail and you'll figure it out, right? You could easily do that. And I don't understand why they just beat your ass with that logic. Like, I don't get it. Especially when you look at the entirety of the game and how the people in this universe exist. People are just straight assholes, or some of the people that are nice get absolutely taken advantage of and being like in the worst positions and manipulated and all that sort of stuff. And it's the thing about this whole game that really sucked too is that everything feels like it's black and white. There cannot be a good in-between character. It feels like, no, we just do this because we're absolutely evil, or no, we do this because we're absolutely good. And that's what the game feels like. And it kind of really is a lot of the damn time, when reality in life is really not like that. Essentially, you get people that are dark as hell and then sometimes be good, and then you get people that is just gray and all that type of stuff. I like gray characters way more than just the black and white ones, because at the end of the day, they have depth to them that make them change their minds, their decisions, and stuff like that. You get arguably the best characters from those morally great characters that has a reason for things to happen, for reasons why, certain things end up the way they do, right? Basilio is a very good example of this. Essentially, someone that was on the enemy side, but because he was, saved by Luis, him and Fidelio, that were on that same party of the evil guys, because, they were saved and they had high hopes for his release and such, even though they were misguided. So, he had to kind of change up once Fidelio died, and that's just kind of how it was. And so Basilio ends up becoming a good guy and stuff like that. Hell, even outside of like this game, if we just look at cartoons like Avatar, look at someone like freaking Zuko. Man literally was chasing like the Avatar the entire damn time, only for him to realize that's not what he needed to do, and he changed up for the better, and it was done masterfully. Like, I'm not just gonna sit here and lie. You have options of how to make things work, and you can make them into good character traits and stories, but a lot of time it's never really used, right? Like, there's a whole nother character like Katharina who doesn't join the party, which I will always find weird, because she's a fighter character. You would think she would join the party, but she doesn't, and it's always weird. But when it comes down to it though, her whole thing is basically she wants to basically beat the hell out the rich and take their money and spread it to, everybody that doesn't have anything. Essentially slightly Robin Hoodish, but also communist at the very same time. Basically, if everybody has the same stuff, no one's gonna fight. And we realistically already know how that is. But still, nonetheless, it's like you can't necessarily have a character just be, oh, I'm bad and just gonna beat the hell out the rich because F these guys. I'm not, a rich person to apologize or nothing, but it's like, not every person that has money is like a bad person. I don't necessarily understand that, right? And then some people just straight up go to one extreme to another extreme, like Vegeta, who sells magic igniters, and that's kind of how most people in this universe, do magic and cast fire and stuff like that. Only for her to be like, I have this dog, don't tell anybody, or I will literally break your face. And then essentially, once the dog is like gone and she can't find it, and it gets taken essentially by asshole people, she basically goes to one village and was about to raise all types of hell. And if it wasn't for the main character, she was just gonna kill everybody there. Like, if we're gonna be absolutely honest. And Vegeta is, yes, a hurt person, but a very terrible person at that much as well. So it is what it is when it comes down to it. And then you get someone like Joanna, who, honestly, I know she kind of was crazy, I get it, she was a bad guy, but she also fine as hell. Like, if she needed a son, I would have gave her that. I'm just gonna be honest. But when it comes down to someone like her, she literally had a human baby. Keep in mind, humans are terrible people in this game. They're monsters as all hell. And she was just constantly feeding literal children and other people to this monster baby just because she lost her own child at one point in time. And so she basically is in this broken state, right? Don't get me wrong, I absolutely feel bad for Joanna. I like Joanna as a character. Honestly, again, I was right there, Joanna. You could have called me up. I would have gave you what you needed. But at the end of the day, she ended up getting her head cut off, and we had to use it for basically progression into the tournament. Cool. But why does the main character and everybody else feel like ultimately bad? Like, and to a point where they wanted to stop what was going to happen. Like, are you stupid? The whole reason why you did this is because you needed to basically advance in the tournament. You had to. Plus, she was literally killing actual, not even kidding, children and people that was in that damn village. So at the end of the day, she had to pay for her crimes. Even if it wasn't beheading, she needed to pay for her crimes. Just to the fullest, honestly. So to keep it very much a stack, again, I get it. I like Joanna too. I'd put multiple kids within her so we can have a nice family. But at the end of the day, she's a terrible person and made terrible choices. Sure, she, kind of figured it out and got better at the end, but still, there's choices that she made and she has to pay the price. I wouldn't as far as to go to, stop her if that's what she needed to do to, atone for what happened. Again, the whole game kind of hinges on this one plan for it to work to advance in this one part of the tournament. So, why would you stop that one chance? In all honesty, it feels like this game tries to go from, talking about, all these type of things, morality choices, and, whether it's something along the lines of racism or religion or things of sort like that, because obviously the church is evil. The Sanctus Church is evil in this game, because of course it does. This is a JRPG in a Japanese game and really an Asian game. Every single thing about God or religion is evil to people. I don't get why. Actually, I do. It's because, at least when it comes to Japan, they had people to come over and try to spread, Christianity, and they just didn't want that, and they killed them for it. So, for a long time, that's why, there's rarely anybody over there that does believe in anything. So, when it comes down to it, though, that's kind of like a reason as to why. But still, it's like a trope in every single game. Right? And they have these surface level reasonings as to why you must fight this deity character or why the church is bad or something like that, when they don't ever really jump into the cultural differences and the other reasons as to why. Because honestly, in the Western mind, at least with your average person that does believe in something, when they see something like, oh, you gotta fight a god and just straight up beat them, and then people be like, yeah, in the game be like, yeah, we don't need God and anything like that, immediately, that average person will probably feel offended, right? And that's just kind of how it is. Oftentimes, when I first got into JRPGs, and that's kind of how I felt too. I was like, damn, what the hell? What did... That's not how this is. And then slowly over time, I got to realize this is fiction. That's not how it works in reality, at least for me personally, and that's just not how God is. At least the one I believe in. That's not how it works for me. So, what is all this nonsense? And also, and I might step on some toes by saying this, I do find it crazy that you get like basically a lot of people in that country that really don't believe in anything outside of, maybe a few things, but a vast majority of people that really don't believe in anything talk about religious views like they know it like that, and it's not really something that they really truthfully understand. And plus, you got to realize there is multiple things to believe in, so you can't necessarily put every other thing in one banister and just say it's bad, especially if you don't necessarily understand exactly what it is. So there is like a whole nother tangent with that, and maybe one day in the future we'll talk about the whole, JRPGs and why is it always like God the enemy and all that type of stuff. And maybe one day we'll talk about that. I know there's already a video on that, but we'll talk about that at some point in the future for a different video. But it's always been an aspect that not only annoys me, but it annoys a lot of other people, because that's usually how these stories, especially when in anime and such, usually end up being God is the enemy. Oh boy, here we go again, right? That's why I don't want to do something like that when it comes down to my own story I'm writing on this damn channel with JS64, because God is not the enemy. Not in that one, not in that story, no sir. So, it's going to be very much different, and that's just going to be how it is. And if you don't necessarily like that, then whatever with you. And then truthfully, the last thing I can think about is that we could at least bring up in this discussion is the bad choice endings. Now, I'm not really going to talk about the whole, let's say you skip, the deadline and bad choice happened there. I'm not really going to talk about that. I don't really care. But it's mainly about the whole choice when you see Luis at the throne. He has the royal scepter, and it's about to kick off the next couple of days that you need to kind of attack him before everything is too late, right? When you first meet him, once you first beat the palace level. Essentially, you get a choice whether you believe in Luis's worldview or you reject his worldview and you go on to that next last couple of days and, obviously fight him, right? And I'm not necessarily gonna lie, I really hate the bad choice ending, right? First of all, I'm not necessarily gonna sit here and lie. These characters that you roll with the entire of the time, you would think, because they feel this very same way of hatred towards Luis and all these other random reasons and what they want for the world and such, you would think they would have a spine. And yet, when it comes to the main character saying, no, let's lay down our arms and be a bitch for Luis, they give up. They don't fight back or anything like that. I think it would have been really cool if the main character sides with Luis and we had him as a party member and we had to fight each and every single person on our journey that we've been with the entire time, instead of them being like, well, if the main character says so, then there's nothing that can be done. Shut the hell up, Heisman. Go ahead and just slice this person down to bits. That is not the leader you've been following the entire damn time. And yet that's the response that every single one of you guys come up with. Like, that doesn't make any sort of sense. It genuinely doesn't. Plus, at that point, the king's magic is not protecting you, right? They're not protecting Luis nor the main character. So at the end of the day, you could basically take him on in a fight. Sure, there might not be a king at the end of things, but you could still try to do something, try to figure something out, instead of just going with the plan of, yeah, everybody turns to humans, I guess. There's nothing that can be done. Like, how dumb is that? That has to be the dumbest bad ending I think I've ever seen in a game, period. Like, I'm not necessarily going to sit here and lie. The one antagonist I will say that I did like, and honestly wasn't necessarily like the ultimate weird ass when it comes down to things, but kind of had weirdness to a point, but a reason for it, was Rella. Rella was amazing. She bad as hell, but she was really damn good in my personal opinion, and I liked her, honestly, right? She did what she had to do because she was kind of forced her hands to kind of be in that position because Saint Effects Ford bitch ass, and then, at the end of the day, she made peace with her decision, did what she had to do to kind of lead everybody in the right path of, what the main character needs to kind of do. So, at the end of the day, like, Rella was great, right? And you basically took what Rella did and then you shit on it. And that's essentially what it was. And just for what? Luis to make the world full of humans and, just make everything a damn disaster movie? Like, no, that's not that's not good whatsoever. Like, and the crazy thing is too, I feel bad for Luis. Like, the game is doing everything in its power to be like, oh, Luis is a bad guy, you shouldn't like him. Yeah, I do feel bad for him at times because it's like, well, he lost his damn, like, life back when he was in that sanctum. The Elder place where, when obviously Elder are humans because go figure. But when it comes down to it though, they literally lost a lot of stuff back then. And so yeah, they held a grudge and hate the injustice of the world, and essentially, yeah, they have their worldview of what they have it, no matter how stupid it is, but they have it the way they have it and whatever, and it's just like, like that's what we go with in that bad ending. I don't really understand that. So it's just a bit weird, And again, as much as I don't like Luis in terms of how they did him in the second half of the game, I still felt bad for him, right? In a way, I kind of wish he got to see the light of how things could be, but the game never really did it, and it just, I don't know. I feel like a mixed bag when it comes to him in particular, right? So there's very much that, but overall, as much as I did say there is a lot of negatives, and boy howdy there is still something good in this game that you can play, right, and enjoy, especially if you don't think about it too hard, right? Because yes, there's a lot of things when it comes to these characters that absolutely is just nowhere, and it sucks, and it's ass, and again, a lot of them are one-note characters. Danganronpa has that issue too, at times, because it's usually about the ultimate talent and nothing else, and that's just kind of how it is. But at the very same time, there is something in terms of the gameplay that you enjoy. There is certain characters that can be really good, and certain aspects of metaphor that's worth the time. But then there's a lot of it where it's like, man, when you really start to think about it, it's not that good. And I know there's also like another thing too that people complain about, which is like the plot convenience of stuff. Like, oh, how did the Gauntlet Runner, teleport from this place and no one notices? How did Luis not question the main character for certain things, or things of sort like that, and just how certain aspects of the game work and how does it go? First of all, and I'm just gonna keep it a stack, no matter what it is, a story need plot conveyances. You might not like it to hear it, but at the end of the day, it does. Because you can't sit here and just explain every little effing thing that happens, because we'll be here all damn day. And that's like the main reason why you don't get game devs to just explain everything in a story, even if you validly wanted a question answered. But still, that would just take so much long time, and it's unnecessary. So that's why creators of stories don't explain every little thing. Even when it comes to something like Kingdom Hearts that you need answers for, they don't have to explain every little thing, but explain enough to make everything feel like it makes sense. Like, yes, sometimes a character will come and save a whole nother character because of plot convenience. Yes, you're gonna have to have that happen, because at times, that's just how the story needs to move. That is how it needs to go. Certain things can be avoided, but sometimes you need plot convenience. I'm sorry if you don't like it because you thought too damn hard about the game and not too hard about the show that you're watching. I'm sorry that you can't really stop thinking about reality and how it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you take it for what it is, and that's just how the game operates. It ain't necessarily anybody's fault but your own, because you keep ruining your own experience because you want to make everything have sense when it doesn't need to be. But my point is essentially is that if you haven't played like a JRPG before, definitely I would recommend playing Metaphor. But there is also other games that I would say that does, one, the medieval setting a bit better, and then two, this narrative, how things can kind of go, as a bit better. Hell, I would even recommend Final Fantasy 16 over Metaphor, right? And there is problems with 16, but I would deadass say you would probably have a little bit more of a fun time playing that game than with Metaphor, honestly. The only sad shit about 16 is that there is no fun to be had there in terms of the character interactions and humor and stuff like that, right? Because once Sid died, that's basically it. You're not getting shit, and that's just how it is, right? And everybody just serious all the time, and it sucks, right? Which is one thing I will say Metaphor has 16 beaten, and that's, the lightheartedness of the game and how characters interact with each other at times, and it's great, right? But outside of like Sid and I guess like Uncle Byron and everybody else and certain other characters like in Final Fantasy 16, it's not really that fun when it comes down to like just how characters interact. It's a bit, serious tone for it, what it needs to be, and it is what it is. I've also seen people try to compare Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to Metaphor 2, and obviously I'm not blind. Yes, I know that there is problems with FF7 too, but at the very same time, I have way less problems with FF7 than I do with Metaphor. So just to give very much a stay, and I did a review on FF7, but still nonetheless, like FF7 was a fantastic game, right? Even when it comes to this plot, it's going to be for people that really like to see where this shit can go versus people that just want shit to kind of stay the same for FF7. So that's just how it is, you know? And in terms of this versus Persona, if I'm going to be honest, I think of Persona 3, especially with Reload and how that came out recently last year. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, the theme of death in that game I feel like is much more powerful than what this game was trying to do in Metaphor. Like, I feel like it was way more powerful and way more impactful of how the narrative is instead of what Metaphor was doing, right? How did Metaphor get high praises in every regard? I have no clue. But at the end of the day, it is not the greatest JRPG of all time, Metaphor. I don't think it is. I think you have other Atlas games that is better. Hell, three main Atlas games that people always talk about that is better than Metaphor. And that's P3, P4, and P5. P3 deals with the theme of death, and they know how to cook with it. And it feels weight. It feels impactful. I care about what's happening here, right? I genuinely did. P4, you have characters facing their inner darkness in their cells, and it's done way better than what Metaphor does with Anxiety, if I'm gonna be absolutely honest. And that's why P4 crew is my favorite crew of all Persona. P5, while they, are a bit more strategic, and they are a bit more out over the top as characters at times, even when it comes down to, how they are and trying to face certain obstacles, even P5 does a pretty decent job at what they try to get their point across in terms of how things is for the Phantom Thieves and such like that. Way better than Metaphor. So I'm just going to keep it very much a stack. If you want to jump into Metaphor, you can. Really, you'll get something maybe, but really persona. That's just kind of how it is, right? Unless you just come here for Metaphor for the fine bitches, which, yeah, sure, there's definitely fine chicks in Metaphor. Like Gallica can definitely lift up my balls for 5 seconds, and Miss Fabian can come through and just do some other bits of sucking, as well as Brigida can do something with the rear. That's fine as well. I don't necessarily hate that plan whatsoever. Joanna can do stuff, and Yufa and Juna can just come through and also can get some nut in some area. Like, it's a grand time, but that's really about it. But that's essentially, again, all I got to say. This game is like a 7.5 still, right? But there is glaring ass problems with this game that I just don't necessarily like. So that's kind of how it is. My voice is dead. Can you hear it? But that's essentially all I got to really say about this whole damn thing. I know this is like an hour-long video. I don't expect really many people watching this. But at the end of the day, just want to talk about it because there's a lot to kind of yap about. But hopefully you did enjoy. And if you did actually survive at the end of this video, please give it a damn like so I can know if I can actually do this and people genuinely give a shit, because I wouldn't be surprised if people don't, but that's just kind of how it is for me. But hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification on my else. Also on my socials, and let us know that your channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.